Right, so I want to do this video responding to Board Canic, who did live streams with City Crusher. They were talking about incels and why do incels exist. And I think that Board Canic is really confused about certain things, right? And he makes a lot of weird arguments that are confusing the issue and are deflecting in a lot of ways. So basically, City Crusher was like, why do incels exist? Because women do not like men or something. They don't like men innately, right? They basically don't like them for their personality and stuff like that, right? I mean, there's like this famous Spider-Man scene which just illustrates this, right? So where Norman Osborn was like, you think this woman likes you first for your personality? No, she's just after your trust fund, right? So that's a classic right there. But it's actually true because women's first priority is status, right? And wealth. And this is just very clear, right? And Bort Koenig, he tries to sort of confuse the issue a little bit on that. So let's hear this for a second.
I mean, most people, I think no one believes that
That's not liking men, though, is it?
that they don't. No, that means I didn't say that's liking men. I think that they want way more from men. I think they want emotional intimacy and blah blah blah. I didn't say that, but we're not even talking about that. Even if I agree with everything that you're saying, they don't only want men for money and for bribery. They also want them for sex, according to you.
I think this is actually a straw man, because if we are acknowledging hypergamy and see this as sort of one of the reasons of why incels exist, then this doesn't mean that women only want status, but it means that status is the priority, right? That's the key. Status is the priority. It is the paywall, if you will, or if it's the key, right, that unlocks the door to other possibilities, right? So you need status, you need high status in order to get with a woman as a man, right? Otherwise you don't get any intimacy and all of that nonsense, right? So this doesn't mean that women only want status, but they primarily, they primarily want status from men. That is basically what it is. And there's even a lot of proof for that, actually, right? So let me show you something. So women are driven by status and wealth rather than wanting babies. So women are willing to forego their reproduction in order to basically shack up with a rich and more high status men, right? They're just willing to forego their reproduction, which means they don't actually want to reproduce with men. They don't want to really have sex with men, but rather they want to have a higher status man. They're willing to wait for that, and they're willing to go to university for that and all of that nonsense, right? So, yeah, that's basically proving it.
Right?
Hold it now.
According to me.
And this is also the reason why in capitalist countries, right? Because the study is about capitalism versus communism. And during communism, there was a lot less economic inequality, right? So everyone was basically same level, more or less, right? But in capitalism, you have more economic inequality, and women actually, in that environment, they reproduce less. They're willing to forego their reproductive years in order to get with a high status man. During communism, they had bigger families, okay? There wasn't that much status differential in these kind of economic, more egalitarian societies, right? Which the study shows.
Me for even way more, but according to you,
a bribe does not always be monetary, right?
I
So there are
specified many
other forms
times.
of bribing.
Okay, but then they like men, but just physically. That's what you mean, right? So they don't. So you said they don't like men. They just want the
They,
bribe. They just want the bribe.
yeah.
So the bribe, even though I've specified many times in the last 10 sentences, I've specified every time physically, materially, like money wise. But now we can also include sexual component into the bribe. So they do like men, but just sexually. Is that what you're saying? Because I've heard you say many times that they also don't like men sexually, but yeah.
Well, uh, to tell you the truth, even that, I mean, that's where sexless marriages come from. Matter of
You
fact,
just
I
said
did a video not long ago.
you're
If they
contradicting
like,
yourself.
if women, I'm not a contradiction. Look, if sexless marriages wouldn't exist if women were into sex with men. It's that
You just
simple.
said
That's not a
the wealthy
contradiction.
woman. You just said you see wealthy women having sex.
This is also another thing. He thinks that basically wealthy women debunk the notion that women are primarily after status in men rather than anything else. No, dude, actually not. In fact, wealthy women actually prove that, right? Because wealthy women oftentimes themselves have higher status husbands, right? And yeah, so, and even if they have like some lower status man on the side, like some like butlers or service man, right? So who they occasionally sleep with, right? This doesn't debunk hypergamy. This doesn't debunk hypergamy at all, because the general pattern is that women, regardless of their economic class, seek out a higher status man. And that is the priority. That is what they primarily want in a man. Okay? So if City Crusher says women don't really like men or don't really want to be with men, and this is why we have this incel phenomenon, basically, that is true because because those incels, right, what characteristics do they have? They're lower status. They're lower status economically. They're lower status socially. They're also oftentimes health-wise, impaired health-wise, right? Mental health issues, physical health issues often, right? They're just lower status men, okay? And women deselect these men because they don't see the value in these men, period. And that was the reality that City Crusher touched upon, and it's 100% correct. In fact, let me show you another piece of evidence, right? It's just overwhelming evidence. Winning the lottery sends women rushing off to the divorce court. Men stay married, right? So there are studies showing that if women are receiving lottery money, that means that these women are basically divorcing men because they no longer need these men for monetary gain, right? Which means they never loved these men in the first place, which again proves City Crusher's point. They don't like or love these men innately for their personality, for their humanity, for their person, right? But they see them as basically walking wallets, okay? So that's just proving all the things that City Crusher was saying.
You know that wealthy women have sex. You acknowledge that this exists, right?
Yeah, so what? Just because some wealthy woman has some sex on the side with some lower status man, this doesn't mean that this debunks the general pattern, the general thing, hypergamy, okay, status chasing. And this wealthy woman probably also got wealthy through her more wealthy husband. Okay, so again, it proves actually hypergamy. It proves it. It proves it. It doesn't disprove it. Okay, and saying, oh, women also want other things, not just status. This is a straw man, right? Because yeah, they might also want other things in a man, not just status. Yes, sure, but status is the most important thing. It's the barrier to entry, basically. Okay, it's that simple. It's that freaking simple. Okay, and in terms of women versus man, who demands each other more, it is clearly man demanding women more than vice versa. Okay, there's even this recent study here: romantic relationships matter more to men than women. Okay, men expect to obtain greater benefits from relationships formation and thus strive more strongly for a romantic partner. Men benefit more from romantic relationship involvement in terms of their mental and physical health. Men are less likely to initiate breakups, and men suffer more from relationship dissolution. So, men are basically more devastated when they break up in a relationship. When they break up when a relationship is broken up, usually it is the woman who breaks up these relationships. Okay, which means that women want relationships, romantic relationships with the opposite sex less than men want. Okay, so men crave women. Men crave women. Okay, women don't crave men. It's that simple. There's even more. Okay, new study finds single women are happier than single men. Overall, the researchers found that women fared better flying solo than men. They are happier with their single status, the quality of their lives, the quality of their sex lives, and they desire a partner less. Okay, so again, this is all just proof. It's all just proof. Single women are perfectly fine without a man. They don't love men.
Yeah, women just do have
So why do they
sensuousness,
do it
but that
if
doesn't
they
mean
don't?
that's not their main desire, though.
Why do they do it?
That's not
Why do they do it?
well. Well, usually it's to get the guy. Same reason to have a baby. It's to get the guy into a relationship where the
They don't
man
want
is
the
locked
guy.
down.
They don't, why do they want the guy? They're wealthy.
They
They
don't
don't
want the
need.
guy. They want his usefulness,
Well,
right?
she's already wealthy, right? She
Oh, you
doesn't
keep
need.
talking about women. What? I don't see these wealthy women you're talking
You
about.
don't believe
Sorry,
they
all you
exist?
got is your words,
You
dude.
don't believe that
I don't
wealthy
see.
women have sex?
Wealthy women have sex with their even more wealthy husband. Okay? Or even if she has some like lower status man, so what? So what? She might have like some temporary affairs or whatever, right? But this doesn't mean that she's gonna marry a low status man. This happens extremely rarely that a rich woman marries a poor man, right? Do you think that a I mean, it is more likely, or yeah, it is more likely that a rich man marries a poor woman than a rich woman marrying a poor man. Okay? It's that simple.
You don't, do you believe that wealthy women exist?
They exist.
Okay.
I don't
Do
know
you
what
believe that
you're talking
they
about
have
there.
sex? Do you believe that they have sex?
Occasionally they get horny. Yeah,
Okay. Why? Okay. And
that's not liking
why are you
men, though, dude.
saying? Why are you saying?
That's
Why are
not
you
liking
saying?
men.
I don't see wealthy women having sex, and then when I ask you, do you say yes?
You're trying to convert it into something else that's not. Women
I've
don't
never
like
said
men.
anything about liking men.
Let's say
I'm
there's a
just
wealthy woman gets horny.
I'm
That
not
doesn't mean
saying
she likes the men she's
I
banging.
I'm not even I never said liking men. I'm just saying that's not the only reason, that money is not the only reason why they are with men.
It's not the only
Even
drive. Yeah, that's
Yeah, but it's the most important one.
true.
okay, so they also like sex. They also want sex from the men. Is that what you're saying?
Okay,
Yes?
sure.
So they like men at least physically, sexually, right?
Yeah, at the same time,
They don't like low status men though, right? They may like, or they may there might be some sexual attraction to some higher status men that these women have, right? But usually that is that is very rarely for lower status men, and even those lower status men get deselected because they're lower status men. It's that simple, right?
Time you're talking about incels. How come incels exist if women were so into sex with men?
I'm asking, I'm telling you, if you want to change the topic, that's completely all right.
I'm not
But we have
changing
to
the topic.
acknowledge it.
I'm bringing it back to a topic. You want to talk about incels.
Yes,
Why
I
do
want
they
to.
exist? Women are really into sex with men,
But I
right?
can't go over your inconsistencies without even acknowledging, at least
I don't have
acknowledging.
any inconsistency.
Okay, we can agree to disagree on that, but
There were no inconsistencies here. Like what inconsistencies, right? Oh, wealthy women exist, so therefore hypergamy debunked. Like no, no. Okay. So why do incels actually exist? So first of all, incels have always existed. Okay. So even 8,000 years ago, with the rise of the agricultural revolution, which created basically a class society, and that class society um, brings forth high status men and low status men, and those high status men get selected by women, and low status men get deselected and are basically childless for life. Okay, so that's basically the basis for the class society. Okay, we can also see more recent studies, right? Here's from China. Social status predicts different mating and reproductive success for men and women in China. Men with higher social status were more likely to have long-term mating, being in a marriage and or not going through marriage disruption, and reproductive success, mainly through having a lower risk of childlessness, right? So a low status man is gonna be childless. And this is not just true in China. So there's also data from 24 nations. Resource acquisition ability improved the attention received by men almost 2.5 times that of women. Okay. So again, this just proves that being more educated, being higher status, having more earning potential, it just dramatically improves your success with women. That is the fact of the situation. Okay? And this is the priority. It's not the personality of the man or the sex appeal or whatever, right? Or the looks. Okay? Now, why is this important for the incel discussion, right? Because even though incels have always existed throughout history and throughout human history, the fact of the matter is that we are more aware of it now through the internet. That's number one. Okay. So back in the day, we weren't that aware of it, but now we are more aware of it through the internet. But we can also say that the incel phenomenon is more exacerbated, right? We see more and more men being deselected than ever in human history. And why is this the case? Again, this has something to do with women are being driven by wealth and status, and we live in a modernized capitalist society, right? And obviously, women are not tied to men economically anymore like they used to through human history, right? They don't really depend on men for their immediate physical survival all that much, right? So that means they can go to universities and all that, earn degrees, have careers ahead of them, and thus they can be more choosy. Okay, they can be more fuzzy. But there's also more aspects to it, because while there was an economic rise of women, okay, throughout recent history, we saw an economic decline of men, also throughout recent history, okay. So let me read you from this. A fascinating new working paper titled Bachelors Without Bachelors from researchers at Cornell, Harvard, and Yale unpacks this trend. The drop-off in marriage rates for women without degrees has everything to do with their male counterparts, the researchers find. So lower wages, lower economic prospects, basically. Men without degrees have seen their economic prospects decline over the past few decades, a trend that has been well documented, right? So if you are a man, you cannot just get by with a normal job and find a woman, right? You need degrees and all of that. And as we know, the education system is anti-male, but we'll get to that. So these financial troubles have led to lower marriage rates for men and for women without 4-year degrees, even as these women have seen their incomes rise. In other words, a quote-unquote good man has become harder to find, at least for women with less than a 4-year degree. So they're getting married less. So, in other words, women are getting more prosperous, but all the while men get less prosperous, and thus more men get deselected, which again shows that the priority is status and money and earning potential and all of that, right? This is the priority that women have. Here's also from my own video, Male Loneliness Epidemic Actually Explained, which actually goes more into detail into all of these things. Our data suggests that women's education and income increase, so do their demands for education and income in a potential spouse, a trend that leads to greater pressure on men to earn higher incomes, right? So we live in a time, or we live at a time where there is an unprecedented pressure on men to have higher income, right? So the highest pressure on men to have higher income probably throughout human history, okay? While at the same time, men have one of the lowest economic prospects throughout recent history, okay? Through various factors such as feminism being in the education system and driving men out of the education system, okay? And also bias in the education system. I document this thoroughly in my 1-hour video here, okay? I'll link it in the description. Okay, this leads to lower status men and also fatherlessness, which is created also through feminist policies. Okay, like there are all kinds of things, feminism and neoliberalism, that lower men's status. Okay, while at the same time women's status has never been higher, and their demands for higher status men have never been higher. This is creating the incel phenomenon. And also, of course, we are more aware of it because of the internet, okay? And when it comes to women not liking men, this is just a general bias that human beings have in general. Also, a lot of men don't like men, okay? So here's study that proves this, right? Landmark research study finds clear evidence of pro-women, anti-man bias. There's also this recent review paper by Steve Moxon. I think he even had Steve Moxon on his channel. This review paper shows that that bias and prejudice is mainly based on gender, and it is mainly anti-male and pro-female. And this anti-male and pro-female bias even starts at very young ages, as this paper indicates. The development course of implicit and explicit gender attitudes between the ages of 5 and adulthood is investigated. Findings demonstrate that implicit and explicit own gender preferences emerge early in both boys and girls, but implicit own gender preferences are stronger in young girls than boys. In addition, female participants' attitudes remains largely stable over development, whereas male participants' implicit and explicit attitudes show an age-related shift towards increasing female positivity. Gender attitudes are an anomaly in that social evaluations dissociate from social status, with both male and female participants tending to evaluate female more positively than male. And lastly, on women having negative bias against men. Basically, women are more willing to sacrifice men. People in general are more willing to sacrifice men than women, but women especially, okay? This has been shown in experimental studies. Findings indicate people, especially women, are less willing to accept instrumental harm befalling women versus men. So there you have it, Board Canic. Those are the facts, okay? City Crusher is largely correct, okay? So that's pretty much on that. I think I might have to talk to Board Canic myself at some point. I don't know when this will be, but maybe at some point in the future. Thanks for watching.